Hello there, people of the internet. Quick shout out to Patreon and Utreon supporters. If you want to help support the channel, help me make content, then links for those are in the description below. That being said, the top 5 list that I'm going to have here for you guys today is completely unoriginal, and I mean there's a million other channels out there that have made this top 5 list right here. But the firearms that I will be showing off for this list are completely original, and I think they're going to be the most interesting thing about this video. So, first off, our number 1 pick for a firearm, the number 1 type of firearm that you would want to use in an SHTF situation. That is a shotgun of some sort. This right here is my J.C. Higgins 12-gauge shotgun. As you can see, this one's a little different than what a lot of people are used to. This here's a bolt-action shotgun in comparison to the pump actions that people are normally so acquainted to nowadays. A lot of people, like, whenever I break this thing out, a lot of people are like, what the hell is that thing? I didn't know that they made bolt-action shotguns. These right here, not the most common shotgun to find nowadays. But a shotgun of any variety is absolutely a good way to go, whether or not it's 10 gauge, 12 gauge, 20 gauge, 16 gauge. I don't care what you're rocking. These are incredibly useful, universal firearms. Now, I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir on this. You know, this is a gun channel. If you're here, then you probably already know about guns, but you got birdshot, buckshot, slugs, turkey loads. You got a whole host of variety of different kinds of ammunition that you can run through a shotgun. If you're running a manually operated shotgun, then you can actually run black powder through that shotgun pretty damn easily, and black powder is very easy to make in the fields. And the beauty about shotgun shells, since they're not, well, with some very rare exceptions if you're not rocking a smoothbore shotgun, but there's no rifling that you need to engage with your shotgun. As a result, you can load anything you want into the shotgun shell. They don't have to, you know, be correct bore diameter to fit the barrel. They can be, you know, anything that can fit inside of the barrel. I mean, hell, I've loaded 12-gauge shells with dimes, with screws, with little rocks, with BBs from a BB gun. I've loaded it with marbles. I've loaded a 12-gauge shotgun with a lot of different things. I've even used other ammunition, like other bullets, to load a 12-gauge shotgun. And you can get away with a lot loading a 12-gauge shotgun shell. Combine the ability to use basically any kind of anything to load your ammunition, and you can make yourself black powder to run through a manually operated shotgun. You can pretty much keep this thing going indefinitely if you have yourself a good source of primers to be able to actually ignite that powder to send it downrange. I'm going to do a whole other video on ways to get around that, but that is a topic for another video. With slugs, you can get out to some pretty intense ranges with these things, especially if you have yourself a good quality shotgun with good quality sights on it, and you're rocking something like a rifled slug. Besides that, buckshot and birdshot, I mean, you can take care of a lot with buckshot and birdshot, out to bigger distances than people might think. I know a lot of times in like pop culture and video games and whatnot, a lot of people think that shotguns are like, you know, you go past 10 meters and all of a sudden your shotgun's completely ineffective and you're not making any hits on target, but like point blank range, they're devastating. Well, a shotgun can be pretty damn effective out to about 100 yards. Ask me how I know. Maybe not with something like birdshot or anything like that, but buckshot have made like regular hits with buckshot at 100 yards, at least one pellet on target. And slugs, I've seen people literally with my own eyes make shots out to 300 yards with a rifled shotgun slug out of a appropriate shotgun. Very universal, very good to have, very prolific. There's shotguns all over the place, especially if you're getting yourself one that is a very common type of shotgun. You'll be able to find parts for your shotgun very easily. However, the odds of you needing them, unless you're rocking some bottom of the barrel shotgun, the odds of you needing parts for a good quality shotgun, cough, Remington or Maverick or Mossberg, there you probably won't need parts for that, short of like maybe an extractor if you manage to run enough ammunition through your shotgun. Okay, up next on the list is some kind of intermediate caliber cartridge firing rifle. So, whether or not, like, I don't really care what your platform is. I don't care if you're an AK guy, I don't care if you're an AR guy. Having some kind of rifle that fires an intermediate caliber cartridge is definitely probably one of the better things to have during an SHTF situation. The reason I did not make this my number 1 pick is because the shotgun is just so universal with so many different things of how you can load and fire that shotgun. You can literally run that thing indefinitely. Whereas something like a rifle cartridge, especially a modern rifle cartridge, you need smokeless powder to run it. You need a particularly sized diameter bullet in order to fire that thing. Man, that bird is just having the best time right now. But you need a specific size bullet in order to fire it. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into firing a intermediate caliber semi-automatic or fully automatic. I don't know where you're at. I don't know what your laws are, don't know what your licensing is. But there's a lot of things that go into keeping one of these rifles running. And if you do not have the exact components to keep this firearm up and going, then it will eventually be to a point to where you cannot run that firearm. Now, that being said, this is what I have chosen to represent this. So a lot of people look at this right here. This is obviously an M16 inspired build. And this right here is a PSA upper on a KP15 lower. Every time I show this off to people, they're like, what kind of fucking monstrosity is that right there? That's obviously a very odd looking M16. If you haven't heard what the, or if you haven't heard of the What Would Stoner Do project, I recommend that you look that up on YouTube. Very, very interesting concept done by Forgotten Weapons and In Range TV. Anyway, intermediate caliber rifle, if you only chose one firearm, this might be the firearm that you would want to choose. Shotgun is definitely a more universal option, but if you are having to defend your life from somebody else who has one of these, then you would want one of these, especially if you're, taking shots out at a distance. So with them being intermediate caliber cartridges, they're not going to be as powerful as full rifle cartridges, but they're going to be powerful enough to be able to take hits, out at distances that combat would be typically taking place at. If somebody's going to be shooting at you, odds are they're going to be in range of this rifle right here. If they're not, then your ability to, sneak away is pretty adequate unless you're like in a desert trapped behind a rock or something like that. In which case, good luck, hats off to you. But intermediate cartridge means you can carry a lot of ammunition for these things with, well, a lot of ammunition with the same weight in comparison to something that has a heavier cartridge. Like, for example, if you were carrying 100 rounds of 223 5.56, it would be significantly lighter than if you were carrying 100 rounds of, say, 30-06 ammunition if your go-to is an M1 Garand or something like that. It would be a lot lighter weight to carry more ammo for this, although this right here is not nearly as powerful as 30-06, it's still powerful enough to get the job done. Most of your intermediate caliber rifles, unless you're going with something that is very, very sturdily built, are going to be very lightweight. I can lug this thing around all day long and have absolutely zero problems with it. And the ammunition is also very light recoiling, which means very fast follow-up shots. So although it's not the most powerful rifle in the world, man, is it adequate enough to be able to do the job. Like I said, I don't care what rifle it is that you're wanting to run. If you're an AK guy, then run an AK in 7.62x39 or maybe 5.45 or something like that. Or if you want a more powerful rifle, get yourself, a platform chambered in .308. Maybe you're rocking an AR-10 or something like that. G3 series or clone or something like that. Like I said, I don't care what it is that you're rocking. Having something in this class is absolutely something that you would want to take into consideration for going to the end of the world with. Like I said, once you're out of ammo with this, you're out of ammo versus something like a shotgun. You can basically run a shotgun, like I said, indefinitely, as long as you can manage to get those primers so you can ignite whatever kind of gunpowder system it is that you have loaded inside of your shotgun shell. If you try loading one of these with black powder, it's not going to work out very well for you. I mean, you'll be able to get off a couple of shots, but this is going to turn into a manually operated system very, very quickly, just because black powder fouling, like, this is just not designed to be able to handle black powder. And smokeless powder is way, way more difficult to make in the field than black powder is. Okay, all right. Okay, all right. Next on the list is some kind of semi-automatic handgun, or, I mean, you could rock a revolver, but some kind of handgun. My recommendation, semi-automatic, get as much capacity in that bastard as you can. I mean, there's semi-automatics out there that can hold like 33 plus rounds from an extended magazine, or a drum mag. I mean, whatever it is that you feel like going with. But some kind of semi-automatic handgun is my recommendation. And if you feel like having a revolver, that's your prerogative. Now, I recommend people go with 9mm because 9mm is the most commonly available ammunition by far. The odds of you coming across 9mm are dramatically higher than the odds of you coming across 45 ACP or 40 Smith & Wesson or 32 or 25 or any, insert name of caliber and cartridge here. The odds of you coming across 9mm are dramatically better. Not only does our military use it, it is one of the most common defensive rounds here in the United States. I mean, if you're in another country, maybe your mileage might vary. But I recommend you get yourself a 9mm because the ammunition is everywhere. And if we're still in times before SHTF and you still have time to go shopping, 9mm ammunition tends to be a lot cheaper than other options. Typically, you tend to get 2 to 3 shots of 9mm for every 1 shot or so of another type of pistol caliber cartridge. Now, if you're rocking yourself 9mm, 9mm is a straight wall cartridge, so it can be reloaded pretty damn easily, and it burns at very low pressures, so the brass does not need to be trimmed nearly as much as, say, a rifle cartridge would need to be. However, if you're firing it from a semi-automatic, then loading it with black powder could be troublesome. If you're going to load with black powder, I recommend using a revolver, specifically like one of your old school style revolvers, because they'll be able to deal with black powder fouling a lot better than a modern style revolver would be able to do that with. But unlike whatever primary rifle it is that you have with you, your secondary firearm, your handgun, can be on your hip basically indefinitely, whereas at one point in time you're going to have to grab your primary rifle, and if you have a sling on it, hey, that's great, everybody needs a sling on it, but at one point in time, you're going to have to take that firearm off of you. You're gonna have to get in somewhere or crawl through something or do something somewhere that is going to require you taking this off of you so you can be more agile or more nimble or more whatever kind of situation you're presented with. Man, this guy is really noisy. I'm supposed to be making the noise here, buddy. But at one point or another, you're going to have this not available to you. You're either going to maybe not be paying attention and leave it leaning on a tree somewhere, and something will go down and you don't have your primary firearm. Well, guess what? You can literally have your handgun holstered on your side indefinitely at all points in time without worry. During an SHTF situation, there won't be a single time where you don't at least have your handgun if you have a handgun. Speaking of handgun, this is my choice. The P38 P1 series. This right here is not, like, the firearms I'm showing here are not representations of exactly what it is that you need. This right here is just my cool little handgun that I'm using to represent 9mm semi-automatics. So, my P1 series, you guys have seen this on the channel plenty of times. It's definitely a very fun gun to use, fun gun to shoot. However, it is very heavy, very large for what it actually is. It takes a single stack magazine, so I would recommend something with a double stack magazine. I would also recommend something striker fired. I have carried this before and I can vouch for the hammer digging into my side whenever I'm trying to appendix carry this thing. Besides that, this is a very strong, very ergonomic, very comfortable little handgun to shoot. The one thing I really don't like about it is the actual magazine release being one of these heel releases. On the bottom of the magazine, that's just a European style system, and I definitely prefer the push button on the side of the grip. But that's just me. I mean, maybe your opinion is different than mine. But like I said, this does not represent what you should have. Well, how do I say this? This is not what you should take into an SHTF situation. This is just a good representation of my pick, my general genre of the number 3 category, which is some kind of handgun that you can keep on your hip, preferably 9mm. That is my recommendation to you. Now, take it out, shoot it, train with it, figure out where it shoots. I know for a fact this particular one shoots about a foot low, so whenever I make my shots down on target, I have to compensate for that, and I would not know that if I did not bring this out to the range. If you're going to run specific type of ammunition for an SHTF situation, make sure that your particular handgun runs that type of ammunition. But try to have at least one handgun in your arsenal that you can keep on yourself at any point in time. It has to be big enough to be able to fight with, but small enough to be able to comfortably carry or conceal carry if you are in a situation where you want to conceal that thing. Bear that in mind, keep that into consideration. Okay, next up on our list, you guys had to have seen this one coming. 22 long rifle. Hey, guess what? Yeah, like I said, you probably saw this one coming. .22 long rifle has been the survivalist's go-to cartridge for a very long time, and it's one of those like universal cartridges that everybody can agree is a good one that everyone can use for effective practical purposes during an SHTF situation. .22 long rifle is incredibly small, incredibly cheap, more expensive than it used to be, I'll give you that, but still very, very cheap in comparison to some other options. I mean, 50 bucks will get you over 500 rounds of .22 long rifle, and you can use that for quite a long time if you're using it for practical purposes versus just going out and range plinking. But 50 bucks will get you 500 rounds. 500 rounds of ammunition can be carried on person pretty damn easily. If you try to carry anything else, like 500 rounds of anything else, it's going to be significantly heavier, significantly more weight, significantly more size, more area that ammunition is going to be taking up. I got the hiccups, guys, I'm sorry about that. But .22 long rifle, cheap, small, easy to carry around, easy to use, and .22 long rifles are very, very common. Now, .22 long rifle does burn pretty dirty in comparison to some other cartridges, and they're not exactly the most reliable. But .22 long rifle, I feel like the pros greatly outweigh the cons. They're not the most accurate out at long ranges, and they're not going to transfer a lot of power out at long ranges. However, you can use it for defensive purposes if you end up, at a point to where you need to. And if you have more .22 long rifle ammunition than that guy has whatever caliber ammunition he's rocking, yeah, you probably would have the upper hand in that if they are within, say, 100 yards. You'll be able to put down a lot of firepower downrange really, really quickly, very fast follow-up shots, without much recoil, without much noise, without much, effort, not much blow-by. It's not going to alert a bunch of people in the area if you got to go ahead and send off some .22 long rifle. And like I said, although they're not very powerful, you can put multiple rounds in one particular spot, especially if you have yourself a semi-automatic, just ba 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 ba, and you got yourself a whole cluster of .22 long rifle ammunition there. So one shot, probably not going to be the best, but if you manage to get multiple shots of .22 long rifle, it's probably going to do whatever job it is that you're wanting it to do. Now, like I said, .22 long rifle, powerful enough to take small game with proper shot placement. You can even take medium game with it. You can use it for defense. You can carry a lot of it. It's not expensive. Basically, everybody can afford a .22 long rifle. .22 long rifles burn at very, very low pressures, so the firearms that are being made, I mean, you can spend as much as you want on a .22 long rifle firearm, but you can get yourself a .22 long rifle firearm for not a lot of money. The metallurgy does not have to be precise. There's just a lot of leeway whenever it comes to making a .22 long rifle firearm. As a result, they don't have to be all that expensive. Speaking of .22 long rifle firearm, this is the example that I am giving. Some people look at this and they're like, what is that? That's literally just a stock. No, this is a full-on .22 long rifle. I actually carry this in my backpack whenever I go hunting and camping. This right here literally is a full-fledged rifle. Everything is just kind of kept right here in the stock, and I tell you what, it sure is convenient having all this here. Here's your barrel, and here is your receiver, and you just kind of pull all this out of the stock, and you shove it right here onto the front of the stock, and you assemble yourself a firearm, and you got yourself a really good little survivor rifle in a very compact manner of carrying. I'm not sure how to describe that, so that's the best description that I have right there. But with this particular one, I mean, very compact. That's why I have it. All you do is you take it out, you put it together. Everything, like I said, is in the stock, and once you have it all together, man, now you have yourself a little .22 long rifle that you can use for whatever practical purposes it is that you're looking to use it for. And this is actually a very nice, very accurate little one. You guys have seen this on the channel before. I've made videos about it. I'll probably splice in some B-roll footage from those videos. But here you go, .22 long rifle, lots of pros, a couple of cons, but absolutely worth it. Now, with this being a rimfire cartridge, you can't really reload it. I mean, some people, they're able to reload rimfire, and good for them. But for the average Joe Blow person, you're not going to be able to reload .22 long rifle because it's a rimfire cartridge, and you definitely want some kind of centerfire cartridge if you're wanting to reload it. That's just the way easier way to reload your ammunition. Okay, and last but not least on this list is a full power rifle. I don't care what full power rifle it is that you pick, but pick yourself some kind of full power rifle. In the event that you have to shoot out past what an intermediate caliber cartridge will be able to hit at, like let's say you have to shoot, 1,000 yards that way, because somebody has a full power rifle and they're shooting at you from 1,000 yards away, and your little 5.56 probably ain't going to be able to handle what they're trying to handle, especially if you have to make a very precise, very accurate shot. Yeah, you're going to want a full power rifle. Now, what you decide to pick, like I said, is entirely your business, but I recommend for this category, you get yourself some kind of manually operated firearm. In this particular case, I chose a Finnish Mosin Nagant. Who doesn't love the Finnish Mosin Nagant series? Now, the reason why I went with the Finnish Mosin Nagant is because it is a bolt action system chambered in 7.62 by 54 rimmed, which is a very powerful round. And it can still be commonly found here in the United States. Now, there is the Russian ammo ban, and it's going to take effect in a couple of years, and that might change. 7.62 by 54 rimmed might be something that becomes much more difficult to find. But these right here are still pretty economic to shoot. You can get yourself like a standard 90-130 for not a lot of money, and those can be quite accurate out at long ranges. Or you could get yourself a modern production bolt action firearm to be able to really make accurate shots out at long range for not a lot of money. You can go out and get yourself like a 1 to 2 MOA firearm, and that will be adequate enough to be able to take shots out at way farther distances than what a standard off-the-shelf, beginner tier AR would be able to do with their 223 5.56 cartridges. Now, like I said, I went with this one right here. One, because I promised you guys some interesting, unique firearms, and a Finnish Mosin is absolutely in that category. And two, I wanted to emphasize manually operated system. If you want to get yourself a full power semi-automatic firearm, like say the M1 Garand or something like that, then hey, by all means, you go ahead and you do that. You do you, I don't care what you do. But my recommendation, bolt action system can be loaded again with black powder. As time progresses and things get more difficult, if you have yourself your own cast bullets and you can make yourself your own powder, then hey, you can run one of these indefinitely, unlike a self-loading rifle, which would require a lot of manual operation once that black powder fouling ends up messing up that operation system. There's a reason why bolt action rifles and whatnot were mainstream up until smokeless powder ended up being a thing, because you just can't run automatic firearms with a black powder type of ammunition. And black powder ammunition source, they just clog up the system. It's not viable, you simply cannot do it. But along with being able to shoot out at way farther distances, you have a much more powerful rifle to be able to basically survive with. I would not recommend using a full power rifle for combat unless you have to shoot at very long distances, like if you're in, I don't know, the desert plains of middle western United States here, in which case, having a full power rifle might come in handy. But I recommend your full power rifle, you save that as a survivalist rifle as opposed to a combat rifle. You save your 223 5.56 or whatever intermediate caliber cartridge it is that you're wanting to use. You save that for defensive purposes, and you use this as a survivalist rifle, not necessarily a combat rifle. I mean, you could if you really needed to, but I would recommend using this in a survivalist situation. You can take some pretty serious game with a full power rifle round. Hell, I've seen people take bears with 7.62 by 54 rimmed. I know for a fact up in Alaska they're using these regularly to take a lot of big game. So depending on where it is that you're in the world, that will determine how powerful of a full power rifle it is that you're gonna need. Like if you're in Africa, you might end up needing to get yourself like some kind of ridiculously overpowered elephant gun, because you're going to have to fend off rhinoceroses coming after you. But if you're here in Florida and your biggest worry is a big boar, then 7.62 by 54 rimmed will be more than adequate to be able to handle that. Now, this is last on the list. This is absolutely not a necessity, but it is definitely a recommendation. Okay, well, there is my top 5. Like I said, not a original list by any stretch of the imagination. or maybe it is an original list. I'm not sure what I would consider it as, but a lot of people have made very, very, very similar lists to this right here. But I figured I'd go ahead and throw in my 2 cents, and hopefully the different kinds of firearms that I use as representation here, because of their unique nature, at least kept you guys entertained. That being said, people have been telling me to make like top 5 videos for a little while now, which is why I figured I'd go ahead and throw my hat into the ring and go ahead and make myself one here. Although basically all of the top 5 lists for basically every genre with firearms has already been done, I still figured I'd go ahead and make this one here. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share. Description down below has a link to all sorts of stuff, including Utreon and Patreon if you want to support my work, because this stuff is absolutely not free and tends to get a little on the expensive side. So, like I said, I appreciate you guys watching. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day, and let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. What would your top 5 pick be? Now, this right here was more of a genre type 5, as opposed to picking specific firearms. Like, you get yourself a specific, well, I didn't say get a specific shotgun or a specific, you know, model intermediate caliber cartridge firearm. I said get yourself a shotgun, get yourself an intermediate caliber cartridge firearm, get yourself a handgun, get yourself a .22 long rifle, and get yourself a full power rifle. What you guys do, you know, like the models that you pick, the caliber that you pick, the type of ammunition that you pick, entirely up to you. That said, you guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I'm not sure if I said that already, but hey, I'll go ahead and I'll say it again. Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. The poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt action shotguns aren't more mainstream.